It's 9:47 on a Saturday night and your phone lights up on the couch beside you. We're doing drinks you in. You look at it for 4 seconds. Then you feel it, not the guilt you braced for, not the usual fear of missing out, but something quieter. Relief. Your thumb finds, not tonight, and your shoulders drop half an inch you didn't know were tense. You've probably been told this is a problem, a sign of isolation, but psychology tells a different story. There are 6 traits that explain what just happened, and once you see them, every relieved no makes sense. You were never lonely. You were just done performing connection you didn't need. Trait 1. Social depletion asymmetry. Most people assume social contact costs the same amount of energy no matter who it's with, that an hour is an hour. It isn't. Small talk, group logistics, the constant low-grade performance of being on in a crowd, these draw down a completely different reserve than one real conversation with someone who already knows you. And here's the part almost nobody names out loud. The exhaustion you feel after a night out isn't proof you dislike people. It's proof your nervous system can tell the difference between contact and connection, even when your calendar can't. That distinction doesn't stay quiet for long, because the moment you notice it, a second pattern shows up right behind it. Trait 2. Selective engagement bias. A wiring that values depth over breadth so strongly that shallow interaction starts to feel almost costly by comparison, not neutral. People with this trait aren't bad at socializing. They're just running a completely different cost-benefit calculation than the one everyone assumes is universal. And here's the part that surprises most people. This isn't shyness pretending to be selectivity. It's the opposite. It's confidence in what actually pays off, dressed up as reluctance. A room of 12 acquaintances doesn't register as opportunity to this brain. It registers as 12 small withdrawals for the promise of maybe one real deposit. You felt this at the office party you almost skipped, standing by the snack table doing math you didn't know you were doing, scanning the room, clocking exactly one person worth crossing it for. So the brain does the math early, and increasingly it says no before you consciously do. If this is already sounding familiar, this is exactly the kind of pattern we break down every few days here. Hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one. But if that's all this were, you'd expect to feel a little empty on the nights you stay in. And that's exactly where it gets interesting. Trait 3. Autonomy satisfaction. And it's the piece most people miss entirely. Psychologists have long identified autonomy, the felt sense of choosing your own actions, as a core need, sitting right alongside the need for connection itself, not beneath it. Which means the simple act of choosing to stay home, uncoerced, can satisfy something real all on its own. You're not comforting yourself for missing out. You're meeting a need that was never about other people to begin with. It was about being the author of your own evening. Picture the version of that Saturday you actually chose. The kitchen light on, something simmering on the stove because you felt like cooking, not because anyone was coming over. A book open on the counter, half forgotten, because you kept getting pulled back into your own thoughts instead of anyone else's conversation. At some point, stirring the pot for no one but yourself, a small, specific thought arrives, almost like it's correcting a record you didn't know was wrong. I'm not hiding. I'm finally choosing. That sentence is the whole trait compressed into one moment, not avoidance dressed up as peace, but peace arrived at on purpose. And once that need starts getting met regularly, something in you begins to recalibrate. Trait 4. Social threshold recalibration. An internal quota most people never consciously track, but that governs almost every social decision they make. You have a rough felt sense of how much interaction is enough for a given stretch of time, and once you hit it, more contact stops adding value and starts subtracting it. Say you've already had coffee with one friend on Tuesday and a long dinner with another on Thursday. By the time a third invitation lands on Saturday, something in you has already quietly closed the week's account, not because the person asking matters less, but because the tank that pays for presents is already spent. It's not indifference. It's arithmetic your body did without asking your permission, long before your mind ever catches up. A few years ago, you'd have said yes anyway, and spent Sunday recovering from a night you didn't even want, tired in a way sleep never quite fixed, because the exhaustion wasn't physical, it was accounting. None of this is refusal for its own sake. The strange part isn't that the threshold exists. It's that for people with this trait, the threshold is honest. It doesn't inflate under social pressure the way it does for most people, who keep saying yes long after their own quota has already been met. Which explains why the fifth trait tends to show up almost automatically, not as a decision, but as a kind of filter running in the background. Trait 5. Relational Discernment, the quiet pruning of obligatory ties in favor of chosen ones. This is the trait that gets misread most often as coldness when it's closer to the opposite. There was a version of you that kept a longer list, dozens of names you check in with out of habit or history, or the vague guilt of letting a friendship go quiet. Somewhere along the way, that list got shorter, not because you got worse at people, but because you finally noticed the math. One real conversation with someone who actually knows you leaves you fuller than an entire evening spent circulating through a room of people who only know the version of you that makes small talk easy. You still remember the version of a birthday that meant a crowded table, 12 names, candles, noise, a night that felt full right up until you got home, alone in the quiet kitchen, and realized you couldn't remember a single real thing anyone had said. Then there's the phone call that runs long past midnight with someone who already knows the parts of your week you didn't have to explain. It's not that the circle gets smaller because something is wrong with you. It's that the circle finally gets more accurate. People with this trait stop mistaking proximity for closeness, history for relevance, or invitation for obligation. And the friendships that survive that filter tend to be disproportionately real. Which brings us to the trait that actually explains everything you've felt up to this point, including the moment your phone lit up at 9:47. Trait 6. Loneliness Misattribution, and it's the one that changes the whole frame. Loneliness, in the clinical sense, is the ache of wanting connection you don't currently have. It's a gap between desired and actual closeness. But what you feel on a quiet Saturday, alone at peace, is not that gap. It's the absence of a gap, and our culture has almost no vocabulary for that state except to borrow the word lonely and slap it on anyone who's alone, regardless of whether they're aching or resting. You were never missing the thing loneliness is about. You were simply done spending your one real currency, attention, on connection that cost more than it gave back. So when you look back at that text, the one you answered with 2 quiet words and immediate relief, you can finally name what actually happened. You weren't avoiding people. You weren't protecting yourself from something. You were recognizing, in real time, the difference between contact and connection, and choosing the one that was actually yours. You were never lonely. You were just done performing a connection you didn't need. Which trait hit closest to home? Drop the number in the comments.